Hello and welcome to another episode of a very good social media podcast where we try to live up to that name every single day. I'm your host, Zack. Let's get into it. So today, I'm blessed to welcome Zack Peggins, the social media manager for the Seattle Kraken, to the show. Um, he's someone that I've admired for a long time, and his journey is so unique, and just the content that they put out is top notch and so amazing. And just getting a chance to talk with him, and especially like launching a brand and like literally going from no team to a team, and now you're in charge of this voice and strategy. It was just such a great conversation to have. Talking through all of the different favorite projects, what a game day looks like for him, and just the advice that he has for kind of the next generation going through this process. And it has been, so unique and so fresh. So, really excited to have him on the show. Hope you really enjoy. And, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Zack to the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Also, two Zacks. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Hey, man, you can't get better than that.
Yep, Z squared.
That's it, man. Well, I mean, like we were just talking about it, but like been a fan of your work for a long time, like been following along, starting an expansion team and being a part of that. And now the Winter Classic this year, and just kind of the journey that you've been on has been just amazing. And you guys are so good at what you do that it was only right that, we get another Zack on this podcast.
Definitely.
Well, cool. Well, honestly, like the way we kind of start every episode is just I want to open it up to you to just kind of go through your journey from the University of Washington, if you want to go even further back, all the way to how you got to the Kraken and how things have been going and what your day to day looks like.
Yeah, I think my journey is definitely unique, definitely pretty crazy. So I'll start back at University of Washington. So I going to college, I knew I wanted to work in sports. Didn't know what exactly that would look like. So I think during my undergrad, my junior year, I ended up getting an internship with the athletic department, doing marketing and game day. So rolling t-shirts to all like literally all the other duties assigned. Like that's literally me for 2 years. Doing like game presentations, scripts for all the different sports from football, soccer. Just kind of really building my network. Like I was volunteering at any event with the NCAA tournament here at the old Key Arena. So I volunteered there, just really trying to broaden my network there and kind of just get a taste like, hey, what's out there in the sports industry. So I did that for about 2 years in my undergrad. And then my senior year, I thought I was gonna have an internship with the Seahawks. I kind of had it lined up there. And then my boss at UW hit me up saying, "Hey, there's this cool startup called Tagboard. Um, they're looking to hire." And I was like, "Oh, it's a startup. I don't know much about Tagboard, but I had in my resume and I had been going through the interview process. So I was like, hey, why not? Might as well just do it. I have everything set up." Interviewed, and I actually kind of just had like a weird connection there. And I was just like, it made more sense to kind of go the full time route versus an internship after graduating. So I spent 2 years at Tagboard, and that kind of opened up the door for me in regards to social media sports because this is back in 2015. I ended up working with our sports partners, so I'm working with Fair and Benjamin, kind of helping from college teams to pro teams, all their social teams, and that was like for me, like I didn't really know that was like the social media side was like a big business part of it, you know. Like 2015, I remember I was so obsessed with the hashtag SM Sports. I remember like looking at the Trailblazers, the LA Kings were great. Like looking at all those early like Clemson football, like I was so obsessed with that. Like during always thinking of the hashtag, always seeing like, the conversation online. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to be like on the social team at some point. That I thought that'd be like a cool job. But yeah, working at Tagboard, I would say I went through the highs and lows of a startup. The high being like they sent me to London for 3 months, opened up office there. That was really cool. The low being I was part of a layoff. And I'll never forget that I got the call when I was on vacation, actually, with my dad. And it sucks. Like, obviously, it's tough, like, for both sides going through layoffs. So I was like 23 at the time, and I was unemployed for about 5 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was reaching out to old connections, just trying to see, hey, what's out there. I was like, maybe it'd be cool to go to the social media side, but didn't have the experience of like doing actual social media on the team side. So that's kind of tough to get my foot in the door there. Actually, Amy, I think you have Amy coming on future podcast. She was a big help for me, and I always thank her every time I talk to her because she reached out to me one time like, "Hey, just think about you. Could be a cool role, and it's for the NFL social media team." And that I don't know that message just like during that time, like I had nothing really leading for me, and it just kind of just gave me that boost of confidence. Like, hey, I could maybe do that someday in the future, you know. So shout out to Amy, and then getting back on track. So fun employed for 5 months, and then my old boss, another boss at UW, hit me up. He had no idea I was fun employed. He just messaged me saying, "Hey, Lance Lopes is doing this project in Seattle. It's renovating Key Arena, which is now Client Pledge, bringing hockey to Seattle and potentially the Sonics." So of course my ears perked up at the Sonics, and I was like, "Well, I have nothing else to do, so I might as well go meet with Lance." And from that point on, I said, "Hey, come on, you'll be a community." My title was community manager, so I was kind of going door to door, telling people about this potential project coming to Seattle. And this is very early in the stage. Like this is before the arena was passed to the city council. There was no Kraken, no like the league had passed the team yet. So I was in it at the very very start. Um, which is crazy to think about. That's 7 years ago. So I really
Wow.
been here, yeah, 7 years. So I worked on the arena side. We got it passed through city council. The NHL awarded the Kraken. We launched a brand, and all during that time, I was kind of a little bit on both sides. On the arena side, doing a little bit like marketing, programming, a little bit of social, and then on team side, I switched over to the social media team with my now boss Savannah Hollis. This is 4 years ago because I kind of helped with the brand launch. Like that day when we did the whole thing, I was kind of just helping her because she just needed more help. And I had that background of like working with teams and at tag boards. I was obsessed with social media. So I just helped with like posting stuff and doing fan replies. And shout out to Savannah because she was like, you should switch over to the Kraken side. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not a huge hockey person. So it took me a while to be convinced and move over, but after that brand launch, I kind of moved over full time to the social media side for Kraken and been here ever since. So it's kind of a crazy journey. To if you told me 8, 7 years ago that I'd be doing social media for a hockey team, I'd be like, no, no way. In Seattle, like no way. But here I am.
That's crazy, man. Well, and it's like it's always great to hear just because everyone's journey is so different. Like I
Yeah.
literally like I started my journey in NASCAR and was never a NASCAR fan. Still to this day, I'm not a NASCAR fan. Like, haven't watched a race since. Really don't know much about it. But it was like that was my foot in the door, and that's how it all
Yep.
started. And so it's crazy how that all works. But yeah, man, Amy, like I swear every person I talk to has some connection to her in some form or
Yeah.
fashion. She's honestly amazing. And I mean, Amy, if you watch this episode, of course, shout out to you. But yeah, I mean, she's always been a huge help and someone that I've always talked to, and I know that there's so many connections that intertwine with her network that she's definitely a good person to have on your side.
Yeah. Because she's like, hey, you should reach out to this team's looking for somebody. And I'm not gonna say which team it was, but I took the call. I thought it was gonna be like an informational interview. It turned into be like the first question they asked me, "Hey, what do you think about Facebook paid advertising?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about this." But aside from that point, I think just the fact that Amy just gave me that confidence to like apply for those kind of jobs and look more deeper into the social media side.
Definitely. One, and I mean, like you see all of these, like you talked about the brand launch, like you see so many, the Clippers just unveiled, their new
Yeah.
uniforms for next year, like the other day or yesterday. But like there's always so many different launches for different things. And like there's so much that goes into it. But like I've been a part of the different uniforms and the different things and throwbacks and color rush and City Connect and all these different uniforms. But like launching a literal like franchise and a brand, like take me through whatever you can of like how that process, like you said, you're going door to door telling people that this could be a possibility to like now you're with the team covering games. Like it had to be a wild ride.
Oh yeah. I mean, trust me. Like think about like me. I was like 23 at the time, going door to door in the summer, and I only had like 4 bullet points from my from Lance, my boss. I had no business cards. I had to make my own business cards. Going door to door, being like, "Hey, we're gonna build deeper into, we're gonna dig 15 feet deeper into the bowl, widen it a little bit, keep the roof at the same time. Um, it's the iconic roof, and we had all that stuff. And we're gonna bring hockey back in 2 years. It's supposed to be 2020. Luckily, we pushed it back, and then COVID happened. So at the time, I sounded crazy because everyone's like hockey. In Seattle, everyone's kind of more, they want the NBA back, So it's like hockey is a whole new sport, really. I know we have some history here in the past, but I think generally for most fans here, it's going to be a new sport. Um, So it was cool to kind of see at the beginning, like everyone's kind of like, well, I don't know about hockey, but then like once we got the team, we released the brand, the jersey. Like now you go around Seattle, I see people wearing the Kraken logo all the time, and it's cool. Like I'll be, hey, like, oh, are you a hockey fan? Like, oh, I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I love the colors, and I've been trying to watch more games to get more into it. You know, so seeing the fans get behind it, I think last season was a big help for us getting into the playoffs. That got more eyes on it. But I think just seeing the city really grasp this team and just get behind the sport, just build the excitement there. It's been really fun to see literally from the very beginning. Because like I said, first people were kind of like, "Ooh, I don't know about hockey," but now everyone's loving the team, is loving the sport in general.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And I mean like it doesn't hurt that the branding is awesome. And like
Yeah,
when I remember when like the all of the like guesses for what the team name was going to be, and I remember seeing the crack and I was like that's got to be it. Like that's so cool and so different. Like
I remember that time because literally anytime I wouldn't even tell people where I worked at because I didn't because anytime I say anything about the hockey, they're like, "What's the team name? What's the colors gonna be?" And I was like, "I am not in those conversations. I have no idea. My my best guess is your guess as well." Like literally the day we launched the brand, I remember I was helping Savannah with posting the launch video on Facebook and on LinkedIn because at the time they kept it very tight. Like our ownership was like, "We don't want this leaking at all." Like I think maybe a handful of people knew going into the day what the team name was. I didn't find out what it looked like until I uploaded the video on the back end of Facebook, maybe like 5 minutes before we were posting it. I found out when everyone else found out what the team name was. So and like what everything looked like. So it's cool. It's a fun day for sure.
it's wild, man. Like there are very few releases that have ever come out about like jerseys or names or anything
Mm-hmm.
that haven't already been leaked. Like no matter what team, what league, whatever it is, like someone, all it takes is one person to make like a misstep or like
Yep.
a merchandise retailer to put something on the wrong page. Like it's so crazy and like how that affects like the release plan is just it's so wild.
Yeah, there it is a big goal for our ownership team. Not only the team name, but also before that was our arena name. When we came out with the Client Pledge Arena, like we kept that very tight.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, so sticking on the subject, like I'm obviously a huge hockey guy. Like I played hockey all growing up, and that's always been my like first love. But just like it was something that we talked about a little bit ago before we got on. But like the Winter Classic, like being kind of that like big jewel moment event for the NHL and being a part of it on your home turf, maybe a little bit further away from actual home, but right down the street, and
Yeah,
and doing so against like another expansion team too, which was kind of cool.
yeah.
Take me through that from, from the inside of like, the planning that goes on to get you to that point and all the different things that you're really getting ready to then make, this jewel event really shine on your channels.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like from the first get go, like the both storylines, the two newest expansion teams, that's exciting. I think obviously it's a team effort from behind the scenes, from our marketing team, our brand team, obviously sales, and everyone here at the Kraken. But I think for us, it was you had like this Winter Classic game, but you also had everything else going on in season. You know, like everyone's like, "Hey, what's planned for this game?" I'm like, "We still have 2 more weeks of games." like, and like each, in hockey, like each day is different. You know, like the narrative changes at times, so it's like I didn't want to get too ahead of myself for at least for myself. I think for our team in general, we did a lot of great stuff in terms of like make sure we're prepared for it. I think obviously none of us the dream scenario is like, hey, sunny weather, keep that roof open at T-Mobile Park, and I think we had the picture perfect day for weather wise. But I think going into it, we want to make sure it just felt very Seattle. We want everything from the guys coming in like in those like Pike Place uniforms from tossing fish for the entrances, having Sir Mix-a-Lot, having just we want to keep it very like if you came to that event like that, this is very Seattle, kind of like an ode to like the Seattle legends that came before us as well. We had all the past athletes from Sonic, Seahawks, Mariners kind of come up during the game as well. So I think everyone kind of walked away from that event being like that was very Seattle in a way, you know. And I think shout out to like I said our team beforehand, like the marketing team, brand, everyone kind of coming in together, kind of put all those videos together, working with the league. Obviously our players as well too. But I think you couldn't drop the weather. Like that was perfect day. And obviously the result too, like us shutting out Vegas. Like I'll be honest, I'm not sure if many people had that prediction. Um, but yeah, I think just being at that event, I think as a fan is great, but I think for us on social, it's like, okay, how do we take this, but also have everyone who's not here feel that energy, I kind of have that FOMO at the same time. But yeah, definitely took a lot of planning, but at the same time, planning, but also staying in the current season as well. Make sure, hey, focus on the games that we have coming up. So there's definitely a lot of work behind the scenes.
It makes total sense. And like you bring up a good point of team performance. And like when something like this happens in the middle of the season, it's like if you're on like a 10 game losing streak, it's so much harder to
Yep,
do everything you want to do compared to if you're, first place in your conference. Like that's something that I think goes a little bit under the radar. I mean, everyone
yep,
obviously understands like if you're winning, content's better. If you're losing, it's not. But like there's always something where it's like you have all these amazing things planned and like we unveiled like a new uniform this past season and it was like you're praying that not only everything goes right and we had this big rollout plan of how we would kind of lead into it, but it's at the same time it's like you're hoping that the team wins all these games so that then it makes sense and like you have to plan in like secondary options of when you can post stuff. And, obviously like baseball, hockey, basketball all have more games than, football. It's once a week, but like there's so much more to that planning when it's like game results matter and, even more so than just on the ice. It's everything it touches is kind of affected.
yeah. It's gotta be said. Like I feel like everything's way easier when you're winning. Like you can really post whatever you want. Like everything's gonna do numbers. Like everyone's happy. Everyone's happy in the comments. Which kind of brings me to this point. Like I think our first season, I'm glad our inaugural season went the way it did personally, just because yes, we were losing a lot, but I think for us it kind of made us look. We can't control what happens on the ice, but we can control what happens out there on social. Like what stories are we showcasing? What's the narrative that we're trying to tell? How we connect with fans? Where fans aren't just we're not just relying on that performance. So I think for us, this is like a little fun thing that me and Sav do. Teams when you lose, teams just do like the final score graphic. It's kind of become a thing where you just said final. We kind of made it a goal where whether we win or lose, we try not to use the word final. Like we haven't done a final score graphic yet, um, which is tough. But I think you always trying to find like the bright side of each situation, like without making it. Like we didn't want to come across like as if we're making a joke about the team, but we just want to have fun. Social media is a place to be entertained. You probably pop on your timeline to be entertained. Like yes, there's times where it sucks losing, and we want to humanize the account, but at the same time, we want to make sure remind people, hey, we're here to have fun. So it's how do we kind of bring light to any kind of situation, which then makes it easier when you are winning. It kind of makes it feel a little bit better, and like I said, everything kind of hits when you're winning.
Well, and that's it. Like you bring up a great point. Like I've always told any team I've worked for is like you want your content here so that when your team, the play on the field, like it gets even close to there, it's like
Yep.
you're the greatest team that's ever thought of social media. When in fact, it's like when the performance on the field is lower, you're still doing amazing content. It just doesn't get seen as much. So it's like it's always that back and forth, like you said, of like how much fun can you have? Like how when do the memes come out? Like how do you do what we're doing and trying to entertain, trying to inform, but like keep things on the entertaining level rather than like always being so serious and so like live or die. And it's a hard balance to find.
Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done, but I think it's kind of like the joy in this industry. It's kind of like that challenge that me and you kind of go through every day, and we both find joy in it. I'm sure but I think, like you said, going into the Winter Classic is we had like a plan in place, which is any kind of like rollout you do, you always want to have like that one like foundation plan, but at the same time, you got to be flexible. Like it's gonna be curveball. Something not everything's gonna go right. Something's gonna happen. Just being flexible and being able to go off the script sometimes too. So, but it's definitely good to have a plan in place, which we always do. But at the same time, having that mindset, like, hey, if something doesn't go how we want it, like we got to be able to adjust on the run.
Well, and I always talk about it's like our job is to prepare for the unplanned. And it's like
Yep.
it's so much work to just get that baseline strategy and like here's all the content, like if everything goes the way we want it to, here's what we want to do. But here's plan B if something else like this happens. Here's plan C. Here's plan all the way down to Z. And then all of those plans get thrown out as soon as something that you didn't think would happen happens. And then it's like
Yep.
even like you said, like shutting out Vegas, like something that you wouldn't have expected. And then it's like, how do you turn that on its head and celebrate that in, as quickly as you can when it's like, I mean, you never would have saw it coming.
Yeah, definitely. I think even like in the meetings beforehand, like we always, I feel like there's a ton of like, okay, what if this happens? Just, they sound like crazy scenarios, but you really never know in this industry what possibly is going to happen. And I think with the Winter Classic too, like a lot of it was kind of led by the league as well. So kind of working with them, I kind of started with the whole like the jersey leaks, so kind of building off the hype there, and then going into the season, like having that always having the Winter Classic there, kind of how do we get the whole city involved with it? So like try and get the brand out there. But I think in those meetings beforehand, it's always okay. What if this happens? Like, what if it is raining? Like, how are we going to go about it? What if we do have to close that roof? Um, what's the plan? How's it going to look on social? Like, how do we kind of go about it? So it's always good to have as many backup plans as you can.
For sure. Well, and you brought up a good point too, is like, making the entire experience very much like Seattle. It feels like Seattle, like that it's Seattle, but like that link between what's going on in, the ballpark, at the rink, like whatever it is, like extending that to social is so like I feel like it's the good teams have always done it, but it's something like in different stops that I've been at, it wasn't always the same, where it was like they were kind of the same experience, but it was slightly different. So it's like you may have this, whoever, this Cardinals fan who had never been to a game in person and experiences something so different on social than the person who has season tickets that's at the stadium every game and doesn't see that. So it's like like I said, you brought up the great point that it's like how important it is to have that, synergy between what's going on at the rink, out in the ballpark, like wherever you
Yeah,
are, so that everyone, like you said, across the world, all the Kraken fans know exactly what's happening and how it all feels.
yeah, and it's kind of giving like those fans who aren't there, like how do we give them kind of that BTS, like, and I think we can do so much with our phones. I feel like misconceptions social media is like we have to have like the fancy camera and all that, but the stuff that I capture with my phone and get out there is like that stuff really hits in my opinion. So I think with the Winter Classic having showing the guys in the locker room again, like showing that walk from the dugout onto like the little deck they built, um just giving fans that view as well. Like that is a big thing for us, and obviously showing the whole game day experience with team coming in, and it's just felt like a whole celebration, which was really fun.
Well, and that's it. Like our job at the end of the day too is like you want people to want to be at the game. Like
Yep.
spend money, buy tickets, buy merch, all that good stuff. But it's like the more amazing that you can make these things look on social, it could lead to someone, wandering into your ballpark at some point down the road or down to the arena. Like it's very interesting, kind of the connection of, sometimes there's that direct correlation of like we posted this ticket ad, we had X amount of clicks, and this is how much revenue we made. Where on the other side, it's like someone may click on something, like you said, like the clips of the guys walking out of the dugout across the ramp onto the ice, or the guys arriving, or just like, a beautiful shot of the stadium, the arena, like that might click in someone that, hey, I'm going to be in Seattle. I might as well go to a game. It looked amazing. Like it's so funny where there are like the direct correlation sometimes, but there's also just that like you're trying to make it cool to be a Kraken fan, a Pirates fan, a Cardinals fan, like a Lakers fan. Like that's our job. And,
Yeah.
sometimes there isn't that direct line that you can draw to revenue or something like that.
Yeah, and I feel like you never know what that connection is. Like I feel for us, the big thing is showcasing the player personality, showcasing what they're passionate about. A lot of stuff like off the ice too. Like if you can connect the connection between a fan and a player, there'll be they might go buy their gear. They might tune in on TV or into the radio as well. Hey, maybe it's a fan in another city, and if we come to that city, they're gonna show up to the game. Like just being involved in that way, you never know what that connection is gonna be.
I know we were just talking a little bit ago, but I always want to go through kind of like a favorite project. That's always something that like I think it's overlooked is how much work these content, social brand marketing partnerships, communications, community team, like you name it. There's so many people that get involved in just one project, and it starts months in advance. There's so many different people working on it and working countless hours, but it's like everyone always just sees the final product and has their point of view, whether positive or negative. But I always love digging into, a favorite project of yours and how it came to life and the work that got put in basically to get it where it needed to be.
Yeah, I think with social, especially, I always kind of describe it like the social media team is kind of like a spider web, like the center of a spider web. You literally have to work with everybody. Like everything's going to come through social at some point, whether that is partnerships, marketing, email marketing, sales. But in terms of projects, I mean, I know we're talking about this. There's so many in my head, but one that sticks out, and this is more shout out to our brand team. Kind of go back on the Winter Classic. How do we build hype up for that? And we tapped into Marshawn Lynch, who's obviously here like an icon here in Seattle, also part-time owner of the Kraken. Um, so our brand team kind of worked with him, making these short clips of him just Marshawn just being Marshawn, like showing, like talking about the jersey, talking about the team, but using those videos that they produce, and then we kind of take that into the social realm, and we kind of had to work on timing. Like we want to post that, but those videos really hit home, especially for Seattle fans, because like they see the face, they see Marshawn, and they see Marshawn talk about the Kraken, then that they're like, oh, the Kraken's about it, you know. So it's like seeing those videos kind of come to life all through our brand team and through research as well, like seeing what fans like how they a lot of fans are big Seahawks fans. So it's like, hey, how do we kind of tap into that market and build hype up there? And then obviously Marshawn just being himself with those jerseys, and then us taking it to social and kind of pitting it all out there. I think it's one of those things where like, we see the comments and you see people say like, "Hey, oh, how'd you get into the Kraken?" Like, "Oh, I saw Marshawn being a Kraken fan," or saw Marshawn talking about hockey, and so it's kind of just build that connection and familiarity with the team there.
That's awesome. Yeah,
But
I
I think
mean,
that's probably the most recent one, like off the top of my head that I've seen from our team. Then also there's a ton of social things on the side too. But I think from off the top, definitely that Marshawn one.
yeah. And it's cool because it's not as if like Marshawn like legitimizes the Kraken, but it's like it's just one of those like entry points, right? Like it's like you said, like a bunch of Seahawks fans, like everyone in Seattle. I mean, everyone across, I think the US loves Marshawn Lynch, but it's like connecting him with your brand. It's kind of on that like influencer y kind of front where it's
Yep.
like his fan base and what he represents and his personality and who he is. It's like it speaks to, you know, the connection to your brand. So it's always cool to see those kind of links up, especially with like other local sports teams too, because it's like there are certain areas where it's like the local sports teams aren't necessarily kind of connected as closely. Like obviously like Pittsburgh is one, Seattle's another one where it's just like if you're a Pirates fan, you're a Penguins fan, like you're a Steelers fan, like and you see kind of the crossover and it's really cool.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think especially here in Seattle, like everyone kind of all the other teams, we all kind of work together on the back end too, like sort of hyping each other up and how hey, how can we collaborate on things, which makes it a lot easier. But I think tapping into just knowing from the research that our team has done in the summertime and kind of seeing about our fan base and saying, okay, we have the Seahawks here, like how about we kind of tap into there?
No, for sure. And it's so important too. Like you bring up a great point is like you have almost like a network of other social professionals in the same city that you work. Like, I mean, I had Andy from the Penguins on this. Like I've known her for probably 10 years now. And like Kyle, who I worked with, who's with the Steelers, it's like you can end up like you bounce ideas off of each other. You talk about things that are happening in the city. Like, are you guys going to this? Are you doing anything for this? And it's like, it's a cool little network that maybe like if you're outside of sports, you don't necessarily understand or think that it happens. But
Yeah,
it's like you have your people like obviously in the industry too, and like the sports you work in and things like that. But like having that like, close knit group within the same city working through the same things is always a cool thing.
yeah, and fans love that. Fans love seeing us like interacting on social. They think it's like the biggest thing, which it is. Like it's fun. It's fun to see like everyone kind of have each other's backs, and not just during those times like, oh, here's a good luck playoff graphic. You know, you see people engaging with big final score graphics or just cool content. Like all of us kind of working together, kind of hyping each other up on the back end.
Yeah, that like I remember Like back when I was with the Cardinals in Arizona, like that was when the Suns went on their run to the finals. And I remember like I love the Suns. Like well, I can't say I'm a diehard fan my whole life because I basically like I became a fan when I went out to the Valley, but like trying to watch that through like the Cardinals viewpoint almost. So like we would talk about Devin Booker all the time. Like we would
Oh yeah,
comment during the games and stuff. And it's like that brought us such a cool crossover where it's like, you know, the the fan base of the Suns isn't necessarily a Cardinals fan just because the like Phoenix is a Suns town. And it's like if you're from Phoenix, like you're a Suns fan, Cardinals came in later, you're still kind of like maybe you have a team that you were already following before they got there and this kind of stuff. But it
yeah.
was like that was kind of that connection of like, oh man, like the Cardinals love the Suns just as me we love the Suns. So it's like I swear like every post we put up that had anything to do with the Suns or Devin Booker, it was like it went crazy and it was so funny to see.
Oh yeah. Say I'm always rushing to the comments section of like the Sounders post or the Seahawks post and just saying like a let's go, like anything, just little simple basic text ever. And like everyone just loves that. So it's always a big thing that we try to do.
That's so funny. Okay, well, one thing I know I've gotten a couple questions about it, and I don't think I've ever asked it yet, but like game day, it's such a like it goes back to like our favorite projects and how those all come to light. But game day again is like it's this thing. Like, yes, there's 82 of them in hockey, there's 162 in baseball, there's 17 in football, but it's like each one of those there's sort of the same plan, but they're never the same. Like you kind of have,
Yeah.
like we talked about, like you have your pillars and you have like what you're hoping to achieve, but then it's like there's so many different things that take on different shapes. So like just take me through like a game day, like how you prepare for game day, what goes into game day, like where are you running to and where are you sitting and capturing and all this kind of stuff. But just
Yeah.
just take me through that.
Yeah. So I think I would take us to like a kind of home like a game at home here in Seattle. I think obviously it's chaotic. So I said I was supposed to meet there's three of us, Savannah, me, and then we also have another Zach. Shout obviously Zach's a great name. And then also we have a digital web manager as well. So we all work together. We kind of a rotation. So in hockey, so in the morning we have our morning skate. So we have one person covering that. So like tomorrow on Thursday, it's gonna be me covering skates, capturing content from the skate, pictures, posting on Twitter and Instagram, and then also being there for the media avails too. And kind of just getting, I like to stand there and just listen to like the questions that the media ask, because then you kind of hear what the guys, what their mindset is going into the game. You hear what the coach's mindset is, and then I use that. We use that in the copy, social copy for the rest of the day. When you're trying to hype up the team or hype up the fans, we want to make sure, hey, the team's determined. We want to make sure we have that same tone or match that tone, match that energy on social. I think that's very important for us during the day, and then heading into the arena, we obviously have someone capturing arrivals, those photos, and on the back end, we have a team photographer as well, and then we have a video team who are there shooting, capturing stuff from the stands, from the on the rink as well. But my mindset going into the game is it's kind of like we try to do like less is more. I think a lot of times for like warm ups, we see a lot of teams kind of post a whole bunch of stuff. It's for us, it's kind of like, okay, how do we do like one post on Twitter, like a mixed media post, or how do we maybe capture the guys coming out of the tunnel this time, or maybe hey, this time we're capturing what this guy does for his routine because I that's one thing I saw in hockey. Each guy has their own specific routine, and like I think I've done it so many times now. But I know each guy's routine, all the little superstitious things they do. So it's like for us, how do we capture that? And knowing it's going to go to different platforms. I think something we kind of touched on earlier is like each platform's different. Like what we post on TikTok might not go directly on Facebook, but you can always repurpose stuff at a later time. But I think having that mindset of, okay, here's what our plan is going into the game, but knowing it's going to most likely change in the first seconds of the game, not knowing like how it's going to go. Like I've been on both sides of the game. We get shut out, it's 6-0. I've also been in games where we've scored a lot of goals and end up winning. It's been crazy games, but I think having a plan in place ahead of time always helps. You can always kind of fall back on that. But with us, it's very much we try to copy the tone of the team and also kind of have that lighthearted tone as well. But during the game, it kind of just depends. It kind of depends on what happens. Like the other night, we scored in the first 36 seconds. So I think I'm clipping the goals on the broadcast, formatting that to 4x5 so you can post that out there on Twitter. I send it to our team. We have photographers the Sally picks, pin that into Dropbox. Um, we're getting stuff cooked for our app as well during the game, and then we have one person kind of posting everything out there. So, like we go Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, in game mainly. Um, yeah, it's definitely a team effort. I can't imagine just being one. Back in the day, when it's just like one person trying to do all of it. It's crazy. And then I think, let's say if we win the game, it might be one of us like Savannah would be in the locker room capturing that content, capturing the guys coming off the ice. We do this thing here in Seattle for the 3 stars. We have like a fish plushie that our team, it's kind of like how Pike plays when they toss fish. Um, we call that eating the fish. So our guys would do that. So capturing that content, how do you kind of put that out there on social as well? And she'll be in the locker room. I'll be posting game content. We have stuff going out on the app, on the web as well, like a post game analysis, all that good stuff. Trying to capture stuff from the players, having them do a selfie in the locker room, that kind of stuff. Just showing the BTS things. But the big thing going into the game, like I said, it's having the mindset. I have a plan in place. Okay, if we lose, I have this flow. If we win, we'll go this direction. But at the same time, you never know what's going to happen.
It's true. Well, it's funny. You brought up a couple things I want to talk about, but like watching warm up so many times and knowing where to be, like that was, I remember when I was with the Steelers, because like I would run around the field and do all kinds of stuff, especially during like warm ups. And it was like, I would know, like, okay, at this time, these guys are coming out. At this time, I need to be over here. At this time, these guys are stretching. These guys are hitting each other. Like it was, I forget what year it was, but basically like Le'Veon Bell, like running back way back in the, well, not way back in the day, but back in the day. But he, like him and I got into this such a like a good groove that literally I knew I would ask guys every game like to do a selfie or talking to the camera during warmups just to hype up the game, get people excited. Well, did it once with Le'Veon, came back around, was walking near him the next game. He's like, "You want to do it again?" It's like, "Done, let's go." So then basically like every game I would just show up and I'd be waiting there. He would do kind of his stretch and then he'd look over and he's like, "You ready?" Like, "I'm ready, let's go." And so it's like it was so
Yep.
funny of like the different things that would happen that you just knew were coming. Like our linebackers would always do this like who ride, we ride thing. And it's like you knew exactly when it was going to happen. You knew where to be, how to get it, how to capture it. Like it's so funny. Like the more games you cover, how it's just like you pick up on these little things that maybe, obviously people who are not seeing every single detail of every game see.
Yeah, and at the same time, like you're building that trust with that player too. In hockey, it takes a little bit more time. Like there's not as much personality in hockey. I think we all know that. So I think it's trying to build trust with these guys. Like, hey, I'm not here to embarrass you. I'm not here to put you in a bad light. Like we will make sure everything's appropriate. Make sure we want make sure that you're good with the stuff that we're posting as well. Because they do see everything out there on social. So I think for us, building that trust, I think, like I said, like I now know when this player is going to give a puck over the wall to a fan. So I'm going to try to catch that with my phone. And you have a good point with the selfie. So this is post game if we win. So shout out to Savannah. She kind of brought this up. We used to try to get the guys to do a selfie video. Quickly learn guys just don't like to do selfie videos. It's just like the basic like, hey, thanks Kraken fans, like thanks for cheering. The most basic thing, but they just hate doing it. So then Savannah actually gave one of my players an option this past season. Hey, you want to do a selfie video, or you can take a selfie picture. And the guys much rather take a picture. They actually like taking the picture. They go back and grab another play and they take a selfie. So now it's like now fans expect us to get the post game selfie. So now it's like it's on our checklist after the game. But that kind of stuff, like building the trust in players, make sure they know, hey, like you can trust us with. I know we have our phone up or a camera up all the time, but I'm trying to capture them in a good way as well. It definitely takes time.
It's everything though, man. Like it
Mhm.
like if your players and your team, your coaches, your manager, whoever it might be, like if they're bought in and know like, okay, these guys aren't out, like they're not making me look bad. They're not like they're here for us. Like it changes the game so quick where it's like, just like you said, like guys will seek you out and see you and be like, oh, like I'm gonna go interact with this camera because I know this dude. Like I know he's gonna basically make me look good. So I'm gonna go there. And it's like it's such an underrated part of what we do, but it's like it's trust. Like all of us, like whether we're, players, social team, whoever, like you're all coworkers. Like obviously some coworkers make slightly more money than others, but like it's just one of those things. Like you have to have those relationships because if not, you're just some rando with, a phone in your hand that who knows what you're trying to do with that.
Yeah, and it definitely, like I said, it takes time. If there's gonna be hiccups on the way, like that's getting to know anybody. They okay, okay, this person is like when we do this, okay, so now I'm gonna adjust from the next time. So it's definitely a learning process. I've learned the past couple of years doing this, and it's fun. It is rewarding at the end of the day, but at the same time, we're all here, for a good purpose.
For sure. When and you brought up another good point, like at pregame skate or morning skate, like listening to the media and listening to those questions and like really being immersed in what's happening. Like, shout out to my guy, Dan Hart on our community team. Basically, like every morning, he sends out this like clips, like basically all the news clippings from the day
Mhm.
before. And I literally start every day with that of just like, what's the media talking about? Who are they talking about? What stories are out there? Who is doing what? And it's basically like sometimes it's like, oh, this was a great quote by this guy. We might be able to do something with it. Or like, oh, we didn't know this guy had this hobby. Like, we can dig into this. And I mean, and sometimes it's like, it's nothing, but it's just something that like keeps you connected to not only like the messaging that you're putting out, but like
Yeah,
what messages in general are being put out about your team and your guys.
yeah, and you get a lot of good stuff from the comments too, like the comment sections. I always go on Reddit to see what fans are saying. Um, because in that way that we can adjust our content. Fans are wanting to see more of this player, they want to see more of this, or they're talking about this person. I can let my boss know, let our hockey ops know, as well. So I'm always seeing all the comments, all the stuff in our mentions too. And I think we kind of brought this up with the game day. There's 82 games. Like we try to challenge ourselves not to be doing the same thing over and over, which is really easy to get repetitive. And it's just like making slight changes. Like the other day, Zack was on arrivals duty, so he actually uh, chose a different spot in the arena to take a rival picture, so like a different background, which is seems tiny, but at the same time, it's different. So you want to try to give fans a different thing every time, where it's not like we're not showing the guys playing soccer every single game. It's okay, hey, is there another angle we can get? Is there something else we can capture, or just like little things like that? Because like I said, it's a long season, so we don't want to have the same repetitive content.
Well, and as soon as your fans know what to expect, like they don't have to tune in anymore, right? Like it's just
Yep,
like if I know I'm going to get like arrival photos from this angle, I'm going to get the guys playing soccer. I know I'm going to get this, and this. I'll just tune into game time to watch the highlights and I'm good. But it's like if
yep,
you just like how you separate content on different platforms, if you have to go to different places to experience different things, or you have to follow along for all 82 games to see all the different things that can happen, it's just another kind of carrot to be like, make sure you're following along. Like, don't give up on us just because, there's 82 games in a year. Like, follow along. We got good stuff.
Yeah, and especially like, you kind of hit like on different platforms too. Like during warmups, we are taking pictures of the guys skating and everything, but I also have my cell phones ready to go. Like when a guy comes over to get his skate sharpened, like we take a video of that. That stuff performs really well on a TikTok, and like that was kind of like BTS kind of things. So it's like at the same time I'm getting pictures, but I'm also thinking I'm looking at my surroundings to make sure I'm trying to capture as much as I can, and I just send everything into our group chat. Like, hey, here's pictures for warm-ups, and then here's just random videos or random snippets that we can use elsewhere at a later date.
Because you never know what's gonna pick up steam, right? Like
Oh
I
yeah.
remember, I don't remember what year it was, but I remember, I think it was a TikTok, but it was like, I think the equipment manager for the Maple Leafs who like had his hand on like each guy's stick who had the puck. Do
Oh
you
yeah.
remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Like where it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like he was basically waiting and moving and watching the game to then like if a stick broke to get, and it's like that's something 90% of the people wouldn't even think of. And then as soon as it's on social, you're like, that's amazing. That's super interesting. And I never would have known that I wanted that.
Yeah, we saw that TikTok. So shout out to Zach. Zach takes he kind of works with all our emerging platforms like YouTube Shorts and TikTok. And last year he was doing a lot of the skate sharpening. And like fans, they don't know like it's just like a single blade and it pops out. And like a current person like puts their hand over the blade and fans are going crazy. Like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it seems like the most it's like simple thing, but fans love that kind of stuff. They're obsessed with the tape. Like Zach would just go around like showing like all the tape stores, and like fans just were going crazy. Fans love seeing how guys tape their sticks up. Like all those like little BTS stuff, we've been trying to take as much as we can because fans just eat that up too. So it's crazy. You never know what's gonna hit.
Well, and there's so many like beautiful little intricacies, no matter what sport it is. Like, like I said, I played hockey. So it's like, do you tape your stick heel to toe, toe to heel? Like, do you cover the toe? Like, do you use black tape? Do you use white tape? Like,
Yep.
how do you tape your knob? Like, is it all the way down the shaft? Is it like there's so many little weird things that are interesting that it's like trying to find those in each sport. And it's like, it's not necessarily hard, but it's challenging to like not only find that stuff, but also like shoot it in a way that's not just like, here's tape, here's tape, here's tape. It's like taking it into like your content mindset and like, all right, now we know how to spit this out.
Yeah, and Zach does a great job of that. Like, I'll send him like on the road. I'll send him a bunch of these. Hey, here's a bunch of random clips of guys getting a skate sharp, and he's able to kind of put it together, find a cool sound on TikTok that's legal, that is not going to get us in trouble with music rights that we can have out there. And then what we do is we kind of repurpose that later on. Like, oh, this performed really well on TikTok. Let's put this out there on Shorts. Let's put this out there on IG Reels. Let's show this on TikTok at a later date too. So it's like reusing the content that we already have is a big part of it too.
Definitely. Well, hey, I got one more question, and then I'm gonna go into like the goofy quick hitters that
Yeah,
are nice and quick, and we'll finish it up. But
perfect.
I want to turn the page and go to kind of looking toward that next generation. You know, the kids that are graduating college, sophomores in college, like trying to take that next step. Um, what would be that one piece of advice that one that like you wish you knew back when you were getting out of college or looking for that job, or just something in general that like just helps them as their kind of journey progresses?
Yeah, I think for me, it's especially if you want to be in the social media space, don't be afraid to try something new or try something that you're not familiar with. And I feel like I'm the perfect example of that with hockey. Like if you told me I'd be doing social media for a hockey team, like there's no way. Like I was a big basketball fan, so I wanted to do that. But it's like doing the hockey side, like it just opens up your mind to different things. You learn a whole bunch of new things on the social media side that you can take to another job. And when you're first starting out, you might not get that first big job you want. But let's say if there might be a startup out there for social media, or it might be an agency side, like really whatever door opens up, go through it and really work hard. I think you never know what that is going to open up to new opportunities, new ideas as well. And the experience you gain is so valuable at these jobs, especially in social media. Like I said, you can really take a lot of things that you learn, and it's very applicable at the next job you go to. But I feel like we get so locked in, like in college, like, hey, I want to work in this field. I want to just do this. We get so tunnel vision, but there might be another opportunity that opens up. Don't be afraid to take that and just try something new.
It's true, man. Like it's the advice I always give is like make sure whatever step you're taking is another step closer to where you want to be. So
Yep.
like we talked about, like I started in NASCAR, like didn't know anything about NASCAR, remember it being on, like my grandpa would watch it and I was like, they just go in a circle for 3.5 hours. Like I'm good. I'm gonna go do something else. But like that was my step in and that was how I learned of like what does it take to actually create content? Like, how do you build a strategy? Like, what goes into all this stuff of capturing photos and shooting video and writing scripts and like, how does this all work? And it's like, that wasn't my end goal by any means, but that was like, okay, this is the step I need to take to get to where I want to be someday. So it's like you said, it may not be this big shiny job or this position that it's like, oh, this is my dream job. It's like, take a step towards whatever that dream job might be and learn as much as you can and use it to your advantage to then push and push and push and get to where you want to go.
Yeah, and like always networking. I mean, I'm sure we're always told that in college. Hey, network as much as you can. And LinkedIn's great. Don't get me wrong, but I think what I used to always do is I used to follow people on Twitter. Like I see people like who in positions that I want to be in someday. I follow them on Twitter. Then that way you kind of get to know them outside the job too as well. A lot of times people share great insight on their personal Twitters or just them just being themselves. And for me, that's a great way to try to connect with them and kind of just get a glimpse into their life as well. But I feel like we get so caught up with like LinkedIn and emailing people. I'm sure your LinkedIn DMs are probably full, and it's just like every day something's coming through. But I think with networking, just being real with it too. Like if you can always tell if someone's just messaging you like, "Hey, I'm so and so. Are you hiring?" Like that's kind of an immediate turnoff. But if you're so, hey, I just want to learn more about your job or your day to day. Like everyone loves to talk about themselves. So I think, especially if you're in college, definitely take advantage of having being in college and just reaching out to as many people as you can. Like, hey, I just want to learn. I just want to get to know you. Whether it's a Zoom call, if I can take you out to coffee, or just talking via email. You never know how those connections can move forward. But I think as long as you go into it with the right mindset, if you're reaching out to somebody like, hey, are you hiring? Or Do you have any internships? It's like that's not the way to go about it, in my opinion. So I think your network is your net worth. So try to reach out to many people as you can.
Yeah, and I mean you bring up a good point. Like it's not you don't want you don't want any of your networking relationships to feel transactional. But like you said,
Yeah,
like anyone who emails me or messages me or however they get my contact and is like, "Hey, I see you're the director of whatever with the whoever. Like, have you thought about this?" And it's like, well, like you don't know me at all. Like you don't know anything about me. Like, why would I magically trust you of like, oh, well, you've got my solution for whatever, product you're offering. But it's like it goes the same way with, you know, people who just reach out for job offers or opportunities. It's like at least start the conversation where it's like, I want to learn, I want to get to know you, I
yeah,
want to know what you do or how you got to where you are. And I mean, granted, that's how this podcast basically started, is like that's what I did when I was younger, was like I reached out to anyone who would talk to me. And I mean, 99% of the people I reached out to were like, yeah, let's jump on the phone, like let's talk. And like that's what I'm hoping, one, that this podcast does, is like now people can learn from you, can learn from the other guests that we have, of like, you know, just how people get to where they are and what they do day to day is so important. And it's like that network is so key, where it's like, maybe nothing ever comes of it, where it's like, you're like, I'm going to hit you up and like we're going to work together and get a job. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't ever
yeah.
have to get to that. Like if it does, that's great. But like find people that you admire, not the people who have, positions open. You know what I mean? Like find the
Oh,
people who
definitely.
it's like, I love their work, I love their journey, like I want to know more. Like those are the people in the relationships you're going to get more out of, because then it's like you and I connect, like, hey, someone else, like you're looking for a job or someone else is looking for, a job and you're hiring for that. It's like we can then connect and figure that out too and help each other out. So it's like I would say focus less on who has job openings and focus more on who you admire and who you want to be, who you want to not necessarily be like, but whose journey you see yourself going in. Like talk to them and hear them
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Because you really never know what door that's going to open. Because like I said, I feel like I'm a good example. Like during my internship at UW, like I was doing everything from like I said, rolling t-shirts to even how to be the mascot one time. Like just doing all that stuff, but working hard. Because then that, like I said, my boss at the time, he knew that I had a good work ethic and worked hard, and he thought about me that one time, like, hey, here's this opportunity. So you never know how that's going to open up what door's going to lay it down the road.
So true. All right, man. Well, let's do these quick hitters, and then I'll get you out of here. But
Yeah,
answer
sure.
them as quickly or as slowly as you want, and then we'll kind of wrap it up from there.
Hey, cool.
Cool. All right. So, what would be your least favorite industry buzzword?
Least favorite. I'll explain this one, but I have to say influencers, and what I mean by that, I feel like it's misused a lot. Like in meetings, people tend to be like, "Oh, let's just throw an influencer on this." So, hey, can we just get an influencer? It's like we talked about this earlier. Influencers, like, there's a budget now, like they have agents, so it's like, how do we kind of go about that? And I think I know you had a guest on a couple episodes ago. Like she had a great who works for the bill. She had that was really insightful for me, like the work that they do with the influencers, because it's like you want to find that connection with these people. You know, that how does it connect to your brand? How does it connect to your team? But I feel like in our industry, we kind of just tend to, oh, they have 100K followers, let's get them a hat. You know, it's like, no, how do we kind of have someone that we want to work with? Like here, the crack, we try to work with like micro influencers and like having them giving them like the opportunity, hey, come to the Kraken game. Here's all the gear, and then you want to shoot the content however you want to shoot it, and we're happy to amplify it and work together. Um, yeah, I feel like the word whenever influencers come up in a meeting, I kind of cringe sometimes. Or it's not as easy to get an influencer as it may sound, you know.
For sure. No, it makes total sense. I mean, we've talked about it before, but it's like there's so many different ways to activate with influencers that it's not just like you said, like, oh, 1 million followers, here's a Pirates hat, here's a Pirates jersey. It's like, okay, well, what did that do? Like, it's one
Yep.
post. Their fans don't care about the Pirates. They probably don't even care about the Pirates. So, like, what did that do for you aside from like, okay, great, you got in front of 1 million followers, but like did it equate to anything on the back end? Probably not. So no, I feel you there. Okay, if you could pick one team or brand to follow, just one, who would it be?
Man, I would obviously say the Kraken, shameless plug. Oh man, I would. That's a really tough question. Um, one brand team. I'm gonna say, geez, I could put me on this spot here.
So like it's always an interesting question because like I end up picking a different team basically every single time or a different
Yeah,
brand. Like I've shouted out the Chicago Bulls were one time. Um, I forget who the other ones were, but there's certain brands who just like get it and their stuff just kind of pops. Like I think that Charlotte Hornets of all teams do a really great job and like it's their consistency and like their kind of visual brand that really interests me and catches my eye. And maybe it's, maybe it's the colors, maybe it's, they're younger players, but it's like definitely not a Hornets fan. Don't think I've ever watched a Hornets game unless they're playing the Suns, but it's like there's something about their brand that kind of sticks in my brain that it's like
yeah.
I
I
like what they do.
I'm sure everyone probably said the Chargers, like all the memes and fun stuff that they do. But I think right now, it's just stuck in my head. It's the Orlando Magic on TikTok because that darn song they have, the Orlando Magic. After they win, they play that theme song. It's stuck in my head like every day. Not a huge Magic fan. Like there's some players I like to cheer for, but that's jingles always in my head.
That's so funny. Parks and Rec or The Office?
The Office.
What's your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Wow, Taylor. Well, I'm not. I will say I'm gonna be on the right side of history here. I don't want any Swifties to come after me. Um, what's the one like the music video of her like holding up like the signs
Oh,
to
you're
the
asking
window?
you're asking the wrong guy.
You're not a Taylor Swift fan. You're asking
I,
me that,
I
man. The
like
Swifties are gonna come after you.
I know, dude, but like I think basically my entire social team at this point are huge Swifties and love everything she does. I think she's super talented, but like I remember like teardrops on my guitar and like our song, like basically the songs like from her like first album back when I was in college, but like I think Anti-Hero is probably the only song I could name right now, but like she's
Yeah,
amazing. I just
I can't really name it. I can
no,
recognize the song, but I don't really know the title. But like I said, I want to make sure the Swifties, if you guys are listening to this, I'm
we
on your side.
we
Come engage with the Kraken account, please. Like just amplify all that content.
yeah, both Zacks are very pro Taylor Swift. We promise.
Yep,
We're
yep.
not hip to the song titles. Um, Friends or Seinfeld?
I haven't really ever watched Friends, so I'm gonna say Seinfeld because my dad's a big Seinfeld fan.
I love that show. Cool Ranch or nacho cheese?
Nacho cheese,
TikTok, Reels, or Shorts?
TikTok, and get lost on that.
Vine or MySpace?
I love Vine, but I'm gonna say MySpace because that taught me how to go out there coding. I'm in middle school coding my web page to take off like my top friends or just like my profile picture on my account. Like yeah, no, and top friends used to make a
Oh,
whole lunch table fight.
so many
Oh,
arguments
like
because of
it's
that.
like yeah, I used to always have Tom in my top eight. He's always consistently in my top eight. So shout out to Tom.
Tom's the guy. Tom's the guy. All right. Last question is rate the finale of Game of Thrones from 1 to 10.
Oh, so I never watched Game of Thrones, but my roommates did at the time, and they would always have friends come over, and it's my time to go upstairs to go to my room. Based off of what I heard from them and what I used to see on Twitter, because I'd be scrolling my timeline and everyone's talking about it, I think I'm gonna have to give it a six because it sounded like it kind of didn't end that great. It seemed a lot of people were mad on Twitter at least. So
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's right around where I would put it. But yeah, I think that's a good rating for especially for not watching the show. I think you're right on.
yeah, perfect.
Well, cool, man. Well, honestly, like I can't thank you enough for being on this. Like it was great to, get a chance to just kind of sit and talk and keep the conversation going. But good luck the rest of the season and can't thank you enough again.
Yeah, that's been fun. I'm not sure when this comes out, but ironically, we play the Penguins on Thursday. So
That's awesome. Well, cool. Yeah, I think I'll have to figure out exactly the date, but it should be in the next like few weeks, but shouldn't be too far
no,
along.
yeah, this is
So
great. I love what you're doing with this. It's been fun to follow you along, and you definitely change up the questions at the end.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to, hey,
That Taylor
gotta
Swift
keep it
question,
fresh.
yeah, you definitely got me off with that one. And which account would I follow? So
Yeah.
there we
Oh
go.
man. Well, cool, man. I appreciate it. Well, thank you everyone for listening. This is another episode of a very good social media podcast. We try to live up to that name every day, and we will see you next time.